Welcome back, everybody, to the continuation of the Road to the Snyder Cut. Usually we have a little preamble, but you know what? We're going to just cut right to the chase because this is a lot to cover. So today we are covering BVS DOJ or Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I am joined by my beautiful co-host, as always. He is the yin to my yang, the light to my dark, the god of Metropolis to my bat of Gotham.
Wait, I'm from Metropolis in this one? Okay, fair enough.
It's Daniel,
Hey!
everybody.
Also, you forgot the ultimate cut in that.
Right, so we're doing the Ultimate Edition.
Right.
Just as a forewarning, the 3-hour plus version.
Oh my god.
How did they manage to squeeze so much in without furthering any of the plot? I mean, it's a mystery to pretty much everybody.
So, Stephen, before we get too far into this, I had a brilliant sort of thing from our last one that I'm going to bring back.
All right.
You know that we talked about it when we talked about Man of Steel. Go look at our Man of Steel thing. That the original Dawn of Superman movie had the tagline, "You will believe a man could fly."
Right.
I believe this movie should have the tagline, "You will believe that a movie containing Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman can be boring as sin."
Well, I mean, it barely contains one of those things, so...
Right. And it barely contains one of the others.
So, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, one of the stupidest titles in human history. Why do they overthink this so much? Anyway, it is directed by, of course, the eponymous person behind this whole shenanigan, Zack Snyder. Written by Chris Terrio, David S. Goyer, of course.
Right.
And with, of course, story contributions by the creators of the specific comic book characters.
Right.
Came out in 2016 and was sort of the first critical bomb in terms of the movies that Zack Snyder did for DC, and it was a sign for things to come.
Yeah, oh boy, this like it's funny calling this a critical bomb when we know what's going to happen to Justice League.
Right.
We'll get to
his fault. Yeah.
True, but we'll get to Justice League.
All right. So I think we should start with the beginning, right, Daniel?
Yeah, just start at the beginning of this very, very long movie. Okay, so we start this movie with our little title sequence, which contains a thing we've all seen before and never want to see again, which is the death of the Waynes. Because this movie has Batman in it. This movie's not Man of Steel 2. It's Batman. And
even though I remember for years that that's what this was going to be.
Right.
It was going to be Man of Steel 2 for quite a while.
And
then they said Batman is going to maybe show up in it.
Right, and then
it just turned into Batman v Superman.
Right. And actually, as I was watching this, I was like, you could cut an hour from this and make it into a Man of Steel 2.
I don't know about that.
I'll get into that as we go along. So we show the introduction, which is the death of the Waynes.
Again.
Yes, again and again. And then we cut to the ending of Man of Steel, but now from Batman's perspective.
Really quick about the death of the Waynes. I'm gonna probably do this to every single line you say, Daniel.
Fair enough. Go nuts.
Zack Snyder. By the way, I watched this movie with Zack Snyder's commentary that he provided on that stupid website that only he uses. And during this opening sequence, he manages to credit every single actor in this opening sequence, the death of the Waynes, except the person playing Martha Wayne.
You mean Lauren Cohen?
Yes. He even credits the extra that was used as Joe Chill, the person who shoots them.
Oh my god.
Doesn't credit Lauren Cohen at all.
Sign of things to come, I guess.
Right.
So we go from the death of the Waynes to the ending to Batman to Man of Steel.
Right.
Which is the destruction of Metropolis. But this time, it's from Bruce Wayne's perspective. He's helicoptering in, trying to get his people out of the building, even though they should already be leaving. Anyway, never mind. He sees Superman fighting Zod, and he vows to, I don't know, hate him? I don't know. He looks mad.
Right.
And Then we cut to 18 months after that, where we cut to the Indian Ocean, where, if you remember from Man of Steel, was one of the world engine thingies. And a mystical figure comes out and buys a rock, a notorious green rock. Sure.
Did you say a mystical figure?
Well, it's one of Lex Luthor's henchmen. So,
do you mean a mysterious figure?
Yes, a mysterious figure.
Oh, I thought you said mystical figures.
I meant to say Mysterio. Anyway.
A mystical figure. It's
a mythical figure. It's fucking God.
that one extra.
Yeah. And that, of course, sets up a lot of things that's going to happen later, but we have now introduced Kryptonite into this universe.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hold on, because already a lot of things have happened in the...
We're not even 10 minutes into this movie.
It's a very dense movie. First of all, I just want to know, what the fuck is going on with this Wayne employee who doesn't... Like, does he not know...
Oh, you mean Jack?
he sees the like that Metropolis is crumbling around him, and he's like, all right, and he gets and after he gets a phone call from Mr. Wayne, he's like, okay, I think now it's about time we evacuate. Like, no shit, dog. What are you still doing?
I think he even turns around to the others and say, boss says we need to leave, and it's like, oh my god, what is the work conditions like at Wayne Enterprises?
If Mr. Wayne doesn't call, we don't budge, even if it's the end of the world.
We also actually, in this sequence, I kind of forgot to get introduced to Scoot McNairy's character.
Right, because he's a like an employee for Wayne Tech or something.
Who gets damaged during the collapse of the Wayne Enterprises building. I'm assuming it's the Wayne Enterprises building.
His legs get fucking crushed down.
Yeah.
He doesn't get damaged.
Well, yeah, his legs get crushed, and he will come back later.
This whole sequence was some of the funniest things in the movie for me, because it's so over the top. You know, like, it's obviously supposed to emulate sort of 9/11 imagery, and Batman going through the cloud of smoke and seeing destruction and rubble. I like that there were a bunch of fresh orphaned kids that passed Batman by.
There was like a school trip going through.
I wish Batman would have, or Bruce Wayne would have, like, kneeled towards them and be like, "I know what it's like, kid. Don't worry about it." I liked when you said his name is Jack.
I think his name is Jack. Yeah, I think he calls on the phone. Calls him Jack.
And when he fails to evacuate, and like Superman or Zod or whoever shoots beams through the building, and he's like praying while in the background giant beams of lasers are shooting behind him.
He's like saying his last prayer.
It's so just over the top, and it's silly. It's so silly.
So, Steven, I was going to actually ask you about this sequence.
Sure.
Do you like it as an addition to it?
I think it's very silly.
Right.
It feels cinematography-wise a bit different than the rest of the movie.
We have a different cinematographer this time.
Right, but this sequence compared to the rest of the movie. I mean.
Oh, right.
And maybe that's because it's shot during daytime, whereas mostly everything else is shot during nighttime.
Right.
You know, you can clearly see what's going on, which is, a very low bar, but... I kind of liked the specific shot where Bruce Wayne is running into the cloud, like everybody else is running in the opposite direction, but he's charging through it.
Right.
I thought that looked cool, and the music is swelling, and it's a good moment. There's a lot of good isolated moments in this movie, but as a whole, like the whole movie, I would describe as holistically bad. It doesn't. Nothing fits together at all.
Right.
But individual moments, if somebody would just cut that like 5-second clip of Batman running through the cloud and it would upload it to YouTube, be like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. But like everything else, like I said, the orphans and the Scoot McNairy getting his fucking legs crushed.
Yeah.
It's so much. Again, realistic for what would happen in what we saw in Man of Steel.
Right.
And I think this was... I remember at the time, it felt a lot like a reaction to the comments that people had regarding Man of Steel.
That was at least the discussion around this sequence, was that it has to be a response to Man of Steel.
Yeah, because people were saying like, oh, they have to address it in the sequel. They have to,
Right?
Because it was so obviously like a destructive event. I guarantee it. Nobody said this in the behind the scenes or anything, but I'm 100% sure that they were not planning to do this.
Right.
When they did Man of Steel, I don't think their plan was like, well, we're gonna address the destruction of Metropolis. I don't think so.
No.
Because remember, at the end of Man of Steel, there's like a little card next to the sequence of Clark going like on his bike to work. That says like, oh, it's been whatever, and it's like however months since the attack on Metropolis, and Metropolis is already reconstructing.
Right.
It's like, well, we moved on. Moved on. So they have to retroactively do this now.
Right.
It's kind of like the Krypton sequence in Man of Steel, where it's bizarrely isolated from everything else.
Except this one is shorter.
It's shorter, yeah. And there's a portion of it that feels like a car commercial. Because it's it's Ben Affleck riding in some sort of expensive SUV, and it's doing all these cool turns.
Yeah. But
Ben Affleck turns his face to the camera and goes like, I guess I'm going the wrong way, and pulls out a Capital One credit card.
So we go from that sequence to 18 months later, for some reason. Kryptonite has been found in the Indian Ocean, apparently coming from the crashed world engine ship from Man of Steel. We see a mysterious figure get a very big rock, which he, as soon as he sees it, starts breaking. It's like you see a lot of these people, like the people on sort of the neighboring island, I'm assuming, trying to like show him things that they found from, I assume, the ship that he wants to sell, and then these two fishermen come up with this massive rock which is full of kryptonite, and the first thing he does when he sees it is break it.
Pickaxe. One pickaxe.
It's like, dude, you just
clean in two.
Dude, we just found this. You just broke it. You're buying this shit. And it's like,
ding.
Which of course is a setup to Lex Luthor's plan, and we will get to Lex Luthor when he comes up. Then we cut to the Africa sequence, which is like the fourth opening to this movie, which is Lois Lane is somewhere in Africa. I can't remember the exact place.
I don't think they mention it.
No, they do. There's a little card that says it's some specific place in Africa. But she's there to interview a warlord. She asks him if he's a terrorist, and
they should have made it in Bialia, which is a fictional country from the DC universe.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But anyway, this entire sequence goes wrong because Jimmy Olsen is here, and he gets shot because he's with the CIA, and then we have cross-cutting of the U.S. military, who's of course like in on this.
Hold on. There's a line here that I wanted to highlight, that one of the warlord's goons says. That is such a bizarre line. He says, because it's very stereotypical, white man's interpretation of what Africa is. It's full of dust storms and it's very windy, desert.
Right.
And one of the extra goons says to Jimmy Olsen, I think, all this wind is bad luck. Blood in the sky. Why the fuck did he say that? Oh, yeah. Why does he say that? What does that mean?
I've no idea. Vague foreshadowing.
This wind is bad luck. Blood in the sky.
I don't know.
It's such a it's. I would contend it's like racist because often you see other. It's not just Africans, but other nationalities are like they drop abstract forms of wisdom,
right?
Because they have other religions than Christianity, so they must be like spiritually inclined, so they only talk in fortune cookie talk,
right?
Oh, the blood in the sky. What?
Yeah.
Like if I were Jimmy Olsen, I would turn and be like, "What the fuck did you say? What?"
But yeah,
I'm from the CIA. What? Oh,
Jimmy Olsen is on this as a photographer, and Lois doesn't know him, which is funny given that Jimmy Olsen is a recognizable comic book character.
Right.
He's Superman's best friend, ? and he gets his camera searched, which, as a guy who shot film, I was visibly having a heart attack watching it, because he like opens the camera, it's like, no, you just exposed all the film, fuck. And then inside the...
That's a terrible place to place a tracker.
Yeah, they place a tracker inside not inside the camera, inside the roll of film in the camera. And I was like, that's kind of dumb.
Just if you're that dedicated, just shove it up your ass.
Put it in a shoe, like, and because of that,
put it in your teeth.
Anyway, he gets figured out as part of the American government, whilst Lois is trying to interview this man, who really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the movie. He doesn't matter. He's just there to be there. And
he's there to be killed.
Yeah, by Superman.
Right. I forgot.
And the entire thing goes wrong. The US is trying to send in some forces, but then they send in a drone instead, and the forces are like giving the drone the finger. And because the US basically just decides to bomb the place, and they're like, but there's civilians there. And it's like, we don't give a shit. Which leads Superman to drop down and save Lois. I think he does quite a lot in this movie.
By indirectly killing the warlord, because we don't see him being crushed by Superman, because he like pushes him through a wall.
Pushes him through like 5 walls.
Yeah, and then we never see him again. So, he might be fine.
I doubt it. So Lois is being held captive in a building and is being like chokehold or whatever by this dude. Superman drops down through the ceiling. Lois gently lets go of the man's arm that is holding her, and then Superman just flies through both of them, I guess, and like plows through the walls behind her.
Right.
And he just straight up murdered this dude.
And then like Luthor's inside man, who was with these African warlords for some reason. Isn't he KG Beast? Am I crazy?
There's the one guy who has like the tattoo on his neck.
That's that guy. He was in Africa.
Right.
Is that KG Beast?
I have no idea.
Anatoly Kniev. Yeah, it's KG Beast. Yeah, because he's like a Russian operative, and they never say it's KG Beast, but it's KG Beast.
Yeah, who's a DC
character. They wouldn't say that because it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean the tattoo on his neck is ridiculous.
So he's a Luthor operative, and they stage like some sort of like they kill all the other African soldiers there, and they burn them alive.
They at least burn them because they and one of the bullets lands in this book. I never figured out if this book was Lois's or...
I think so, yeah.
Jimmy's.
I mean, I never rewind it, but when she finds it later, I just assumed that it...
Yeah. And this leads Lois to her subplot, which is figuring out where the fuck this bullet came from, which will lead to Lex Luthor.
Which leads to nowhere.
It leads to Lex Luthor. And we already know it's Lex Luthor. Come on.
But just to make a point, they burn the bodies of the African men to suggest to the U.S. military, who comes in afterwards to clean up the thing or whatever. To suggest to them that Superman burned them alive using his heat vision.
Right.
Because, you see video taken from there afterwards, and people are like, oh, Superman acted with impunity.
Yeah, and like we learn later that Lex has actually been like skewing testimony a little bit, so that they like say that it was Superman who did it, despite the fact that it wasn't.
There's this African lady who
lives in Gotham, apparently.
Right. I always thought that what happened is that she was brought from Africa, and now she temporarily lives in Gotham.
Right.
That's what I thought. But
it's never explained.
It's never, her character doesn't matter. But what I thought was funny is that no fucking way is the U.S. ever gonna let a person from one of their war blunders testify in the Senate. No fucking way.
I'm gonna go one step further. I have a note here that says, "Why the hell is the U.S. holding a hearing about Superman's actions in Africa? They don't know that Superman is an American citizen."
I think that's like a convention thing where like, oh, he works with the American government. Whatever.
Does he?
I don't know.
Like
Nobody knows.
At the end of Man of Steel, he literally throws a drone out of the sky and says to, Martian Manhunter, who we'll get to, that he's like, I don't like to be watched. It's like basically says to the U.S. military, fuck off.
Well, it's kind of like, well, this was under our watch, this operation, because Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen were there, and they're American citizens.
Right.
So I can see how they're involved in this, right? But again, why isn't Lois Lane? It would be more accurate if we were to be realistic that Lois Lane would testify in the Senate. Like, technically, a CIA agent was killed. That's
right.
Pretty bad.
But they keep framing these hearings, which is a recurring plot of the 90 million recurring plots in this movie.
Right.
That is, they're trying to figure out what to do with Superman, which is like, okay.
Yeah, but why does the US get to decide what to do with Superman?
Well, that's my question. Because the entire hearing...
They do this thing, and again, I'm sure they didn't even think about it because they're so stupid, these writers, and so like pro-American and whatever. In the sense that, why is the American Senate like the court of the world?
According to this movie, maybe?
Because, okay, fine, the U.S. Senate doesn't condone the actions of Superman.
Fair.
Superman can just go to wherever, like go to, I don't know, fucking...
Just fly to Bali, who cares?
Bali, and be like, do you guys want my help? And they're like, yeah, sure, fuck yeah. It's like, okay, now Superman is a Bali citizen and he's our friend, and, you know, what does the U.S. have to say about any of this? I don't understand it.
No.
It's not even... You're not even holding hearings about shit that he does in the U.S.
No.
It's shit that he does in other countries. But it's like, but we're American and we have to take a stand about what's happening in the world. It's this interventionist bullshit that every news outlet in America does to justify their continuous intervention in other countries, military interventions. And it's disgusting. You go on CNN, it's full of this crap, full of it. It's, well, I guess it reflects reality, but they're not smart enough to acknowledge what this is. They just show it, you know, fucking like, bottom feeders like Jon Stewart or whatever. I'm sorry to get political.
Steven is mad.
Well, if you introduce politics like this,
right?
You know, if you're not smart enough to talk about it, don't do it.
And here I might actually just jump in and say, this is what I mean with this movie. You could kind of take an hour out of it and make it into a Man of Steel sequel. Because if this was a hearing about what happened in Metropolis, then it would make sense.
Yeah.
Because that happened in the US, and that was, Superman's fault. I was about to say arguably Superman's fault.
They could have just have that be the catalyst of the hearings.
Right.
And then just have the rest of the plot the same.
Right. But
because Scoop McNairy is at the hearings because he's like a victim of what happened in Metropolis. But I'm like, okay, so are the hearings about Metropolis now?
Well, they bring in Scoot McNairy pretty late in the movie because he's like a showcase to what happens when Superman goes unchecked or whatever.
But he has nothing to do with what happened in Africa.
No, but they put in Scoot McNairy as like, here's what happens if we don't rein in Superman, and here is also what happens if we don't rein him in. Shows the African footage, but that doesn't matter anyway because they blow up Congress.
Which is, you know, hashtag too soon.
Yeah, that was though we're jumping a little bit ahead in the movie because this subplot is terrible and it doesn't go anywhere. My favorite shot in the entire movie is Superman walking down the halls of Congress towards the hearing, and somebody just turns around and is like, is that fucking Superman?
Like, I really like that shot. I think that, just put a point on it, I think that shot, that frontal shot of him walking into the Senate, I don't know what they did. They like fluffed the shit out of that suit, but he looks huge.
Right.
And he looks like unhuman, which is good because that's... I think that's what they were going for.
Right.
And the lighting is a bit nicer. They actually got some fucking warm colors in there. I think that again, isolated moment, good.
And there are a few moments where I actually think the suit looks okay. It looks blue for one.
Yeah.
But there are still so many times when it doesn't. Then we have Clark. What is Clark doing? Because Clark also needs a subplot, and it's not Superman's subplot, it's Clark's.
He has opinions about things we don't know them, But
No.
the directors or the people who were coaching him acting wise were telling Henry Cavill, look, you have opinions about what's happening.
Right.
You're watching TV, you see all this stuff, and you have opinions about it.
Right.
And he's like, okay, what are they? Action.
So Clark gets put on assignment to go cover sports in Gotham, which we get revealed is
fucking. I just remember this.
Is basically like New York and Brooklyn. It's like
they're
like
sister cities.
Yeah, which honestly I don't hate. I don't hate that idea. It's dumb, but I don't hate it.
It's a good idea.
I don't hate it. But
expediency,
Yeah, and whilst he's there, he learns about Batman.
Oh, wait, you haven't mentioned the other opening, the Batman opening, because there's also a Batman opening.
Oh yeah, Batman is looking for somebody called the White Portuguese, and he is what is he's doing in the beginning? He's like
in a sex trafficking warehouse,
Oh,
awkwardly hanging on the ceiling.
Oh right, yes. Okay, I thought we were getting to where he's at the bare knuckle boxing fight.
No, that's a bit later. This movie is impossible to track.
Which was yikes, by the way. But we see the Gotham police find a sex trafficking.
Wait a second, Daniel. There's an important note to mention here, because
they watch
this
football
whole sequence,
before this happens.
No, this whole sequence with the police investigating the sex trafficking ring in Gotham.
Right.
It's important because it opens with a shot of police officers watching a football match on TV.
Yeah,
between the Metropolis football team and the Gotham team.
Right.
And it's important to note because in Zack Snyder's commentary track, he said that he thinks that showing a football match between Team Gotham and Team Metropolis is a, quote, clever metaphor for the movie.
How?
Because it's Batman v Superman, bro, and they're two jocks who are amped on steroids.
Okay, Steven, I'm just gonna
each other.
The police find this sex trafficking
warehouse.
Cage.
Yeah.
It's like the cage in a basement or somewhere.
Yeah.
And they don't want to leave because they're scared because Batman is hanging awkwardly in the corner. Oh my god, that was so sad.
What would have put the icing on the cake if when the policeman flashed the light on him, he would have just gone boo.
Oh, that would have made it a lot better, actually.
Boo.
And then he disappears. The police officer almost shoots his
almost shoots the roof off the building.
Yeah, and almost shoots his partner.
Shotgun.
I'm surprised he didn't hit.
Yeah. We get introduced also at the end of the Batman sequence to the concept that Batman uses branding for
because there's a guy chained to the oh my god, this movie is impossible.
It's impossible to keep track.
There's a guy when they arrive, there's a guy chained to the wall or to the heater or whatever, and he has like a brand on his chest, which is something Batman does. Which
all right, what do you think of this? Because I think this is the stupidest thing in the whole movie.
I mean, it's up there as the stupidest thing in the whole movie, right?
It's hard competition, really, but
I mean, it kind of ties into my idea of Zack Snyder a little bit.
Yeah, but what do you think of it as a choice for Batman to do?
Okay, as a choice for Batman to do in isolation, it's dumb as hell. I don't get it.
Right, because the idea of it, as far as I understand, is that he brands people with a Batman, like cows, like cattle, with a Batman symbol in order for them to, when they go to prison, to be killed.
Well, we see a person get killed in prison, but that was apparently Luthor who got that person killed.
Then what does Batman want to achieve with this then?
Show that he's out there, show that like this person has been captured by Batman. I don't know, it's part of his entire fear plot. This is why it's stupid. It makes no sense to why he would brand people other than it's fucking edgy, man.
Like,
which is half of this movie.
Okay, fine. Wouldn't hardened criminals, right?
Right.
Who are in a life of crime for life,
right?
Wouldn't they wear it as a badge of honor?
Well, that's also my question. Like, what about all the classic? Because we get told that Batman has been doing this for like 20 years. So this is old grizzled Batman.
Right.
And apparently he's such of an urban legend that nobody in Metropolis gives a fuck about him. Which is
Clark never heard of him.
Clark has never heard of him. When he mentioned it to Perry White, who is his editor-in-chief, played by Lawrence Fishburne, he basically says nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit about the Bat, and it's like, this is an urban legend that's been going on for 20 years. He's fucking branding people. Nobody gives a shit.
Bruce Wayne is like, Alfred, we need to hire a new PR guy. I need to get my name out there.
Fuck, you need to hire a new PR guy. But I was just thinking, like, what of all
barely cracked 100K Instagram followers.
What about the classic Rogues Gallery people? Like, is Penguin sitting in Arkham Asylum with a brand on his chest?
So technically, if you want to be anal about it again,
right,
you're branding mental patients in some cases, right? If Arkham Asylum is a thing and Batman usually pursues...
Well, we know Arkham Asylum is a thing. He threatens Lex Luthor to send him there, or actually, he does send Lex Luthor there.
Right, but so if Arkham Asylum is a thing, and presumably Batman has captured in the past people who have gone to Arkham Asylum,
right?
Arkham Asylum being a mental institution,
right?
Are you then branding those people who have mental disabilities?
I would assume so, to this Batman.
Isn't that kind of...
Well, this also ties in with the whole idea that we're technically watching a billionaire dress up as a bat and beat poor people.
There's a scene later on, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
But all right, so we go from that. I believe we go from the Batman sequence to the sequence in Clark and Lois's apartment, right?
Yes.
The bathtub.
Yeah, I have a note about that bathtub.
Go ahead.
Why?
The commentary on that sequence was, because Deborah Snyder walked into the screening room at some point, and she was there for this sequence,
right,
with Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder kind of jokingly said, like, yeah, this is basically what me and Debbie do. But, I think it's not accurate enough because, Henry's not as muscular as me. And, he was being cheeky about it. I thought that was
okay,
funny.
Fair enough. But why?
But what I'm saying is, like, I mean, he even thinks it's ridiculous, right?
Then why put it in the movie? You're the director.
I don't know, man, because sexy. It's
is okay.
The sequence right after that is Bruce Wayne living in his stupid cave underground with his gay butler, and
right.
And no, I'm joking. I don't know if Alfred's gay. It's just his friend who constantly asks about his sex life, pestering him.
He is asexual because we never see Alfred date. So
yeah, he have any sort of interests of his own. He just exists to serve Bruce Wayne's interests, which is very sad. But I think that these two scenes are worse, and there's a lot of scenes like that, like two bundle scenes, right, that are supposed to act in conjunction with each other. Like, we're supposed to see that Clark and Lois have a relatively normal domestic life, right, whereas Batman has the opposite of that. He's a loner. He's, an incel.
He basically wakes up every day with an unknown woman in his bed, and the first thing he does is take pop a handful of pills and drink some wine. Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, it's the same as Ben Affleck in Daredevil. I was getting the weirdest Daredevil vibes from this movie, and oh my god.
The only thing that was lacking was the Evanescence music.
Oh my god, if this movie
Wake me up inside!
If this movie has suddenly started playing Bring Me to Life, I would have been like, okay, this movie is actually kind of okay.
But yeah, don't you think that was what they were doing? Like, this is Superman and Lois's life, and this is Batman, and like, because they're one after the other.
They're right after each other. I mean, I get that, I understand that. But I still have the question of why have an entire sequence where you have them basically exposition to each other, but Superman or Clark, is just standing there whilst Lois is sitting in a bathtub, naked.
Because sex?
And
Wow. I don't know.
like,
But Daniel, you were distracted by probably Henry Cavill's incredible physique.
I mean,
to-
he does look very good in this movie.
You were distracted by that, and you didn't notice the titular line in that sequence, which is Superman saying to Lois, "I don't care."
Oh yeah, she asks him about the hearings, and he basically goes, "I don't give a shit," which is just underlined 4 times as like, this is Superman in this movie.
So we go from that to
Yeah.
what you said earlier, Lex Luthor.
Yeah, so Lex Luthor, we get introduced to Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, who right, who has plans.
Look, honestly, I think he's the best character in the movie.
I think he's the second best character in this movie.
Oh, who's the best character? Then?
We'll get to her.
Oh, well, now I'm curious.
You'll never guess it.
Well, it's by process of elimination. There's not that many, so
No, there's not that many women in this movie.
all right. But what did you think of Lex Luthor, of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor? Since we're at his scene,
He's incredibly awkward.
I think that was the point, though.
Right,
you know?
yeah, okay, I get it's the point. I get this version of Lex Luthor, like he even makes a joke that it was his dad's company and things like that, and we can assume that his dad is like traditional Lex Luthor, right?
Right.
So this is like the son of traditional Lex Luthor. So he's we assume a techie, like a tech
I don't
bro.
think that was really the point, because
But
there's stuff with Lex Luthor's dad in the comics as well.
Right, but you know, I would assume that the dad version, Lex's dad, is something closer to what we understand as classic Lex Luthor.
I don't think so. I think that the point.
Steven, I'm just trying to jump on.
I'm sorry to disagree. I just think
Fair
that
enough.
based on the thousands of hours of information by now that I've disseminated on what these people were trying to do,
Right.
I think mostly in the commentary track, Zack Snyder says that the idea was that from what we see in the movie, we will get to the point where he becomes classic Lex Luthor.
Right. And if we jump actually to the next movie and we get to the end credit scene of Justice League, we get some of that.
Oh, you mean 2 seconds of him in a costume with no dialogue?
No, he has dialogue at the end of Justice League.
Does he?
Yeah, he talks to Deathstroke.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We get a cross plot with Luthor and the Holly Hunter, who plays a senator from Kentucky.
Finch.
Yeah,
Her
but
name is Finch.
Yeah, but she plays a senator from Kentucky named
Right.
Finch, and he's basically talking to her because he wants He wants access to Zod.
Zod's body.
Yeah, Zod's body, who the U.S. government has.
Right.
And he wants legal travel for his rock, which we saw at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Why he just can't smuggle it in?
Does he just smuggle it in anyway?
He smuggles it in later in the movie.
Or is that illegal
No.
transport?
He literally gets told not to, because so Luthor's entire plot is he basically wants to get detergent for Superman because he hates Superman, because Superman is a god.
You know, I know you didn't say this, but it kind of sounded like he wants to get detergent for Superman.
Yeah.
A deterrent.
Yeah,
right?
he wants a deterrent for Superman because he sees Superman as bad because he's a god and whatever, and he has like a
God cannot be all good.
yes, and we have the scene later where she goes, you can dress up, what is it, apple something as much and call Granny's peach. It's the Granny's peach tea line, which comes back when the entire Senate blows up because there's a jar on the table called Granny's peach tea.
And it's full with piss.
But whose piss?
We'll never know.
We'll never know. And I honestly don't give a shit.
Maybe in the Snyder cut, we'll find out.
I was about to say that knowing Zack Snyder's track record with women, we don't want the answer. And the entire movie is flinging around on this like question of should we keep Superman as a force for good, or should we basically nuke him?
Right.
And it goes nowhere because the Senate gets blown up by Lex Luthor.
Yeah, we wasted like half of the movie on nothing.
Yes.
Literally half. At the half point mark, the Senate explodes.
Yeah, and Lex starts building Doomsday.
Doomsday. Blah, 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 blah.
He does actually say Doomsday when he wakes up, which I was like, oh my god. So we are also introduced. Oh my god, there's so many introductions in this movie to Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, aka Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman.
Oh, is she the best character in the movie?
Oh no,
no.
She has like 3 lines.
I know, but I was like, oh, another woman. She must be the best character. If you said, when do we get introduced to her?
He goes to Clark gets a letter that he has to cover a party in Metropolis.
Right.
And that party is also Bruce Wayne also shows up at that party, and it's basically their formal introduction to each other. And it is inferred that it is Lex who is bringing both of them here because Lex somehow knows that both of them are their secret identities, and he's wanting them to fight. This is part of Lex's dumbass plan that we will get to, because this plan makes no fucking sense.
It's also a plan that's based on, like, somehow Lex Luthor knows what everybody in the movie's gonna do from the start.
Right.
Like, he read the whole script. And
and it also relies on something else with Doomsday, but we will get to Doomsday. But at this party, Bruce is basically there to gather information because he kind of knows that Lex Luthor has something to do with this white Portuguese thing, which it turns out it does. It's the ship he uses to freight in the kryptonite.
Yeah. By the way, the scene is actually takes place at the Michigan Art Museum. That dubs as the Metropolis.
Yeah. Not Gotham's, because we don't actually see much of Gotham.
Oh, because I think the idea is that Gotham is a crapshoot.
It's a dump. It's 90% docks, and they're all abandoned. But in this, we also see Diana and steals Bruce's doodad, his little bat gadget, who he leaves, which is like going into the servers of this art gallery that apparently links to Lex Luthor's mainframe. I don't.
Why is it there? What the fuck is going on?
I just realized he put a doodad on the servers in an art museum because we get told that it's an art museum, but that somehow gives him access to Lex Luthor's files. Maybe they mentioned that it's like Lex Luthor built this thing, because we also forgot to mention that Metropolis got rebuilt in 18 months, which
yeah, and Lex Luthor probably had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, but when Bruce then comes back to retrieve this doodad, it's stolen, and it's stolen by Wonder Woman.
There's a little moment here that I liked. Again, isolated moment. I just want to point them out. I liked Affleck acting aloof, because he is an aloof person. And he's the most natural when he's kind of like, I don't know, mentally distant.
Okay, do you think Affleck is a good Bruce Wayne?
No.
Okay,
that
fair
was
enough.
A simple answer.
Yeah, because I also think he's fine, but
no. That one moment when Mercy,
right,
Lex's personal assistant, who in the comics has like a robot arm that shoots lasers or something.
Yeah.
Not in this.
Nope.
But she's Lex's assistant, and she catches Batman in the server room as Bruce Wayne fiddling with stuff there, and he's like, I just got too many martinis, and I liked how he acted in that. He acted like an aloof rich playboy, like he covered well for himself within the context,
right.
And then he just said like, I like your shoes.
Yeah, as she leaves, he goes like, I like your shoes. I was like,
what? I just want to point out that, again, because I watched all the behind the scenes and Zack Snyder's commentary, I know this. I wouldn't have put the two together, but before this whole sequence, there's 2 sequences that, again, are paralleling each other, which gets to one of my conclusions of the movie, which I'll talk to at the end. There's a parallel between Lex and Wayne in two scenes. There's the scene with Lex and the senator, the Michigan senator, in his father's old study that he keeps intact.
Right.
Right. And that set was made to look the same as the Wayne family tomb that we also see in the next scene.
Oh.
Visually similar, like in terms of architecture and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
And that's supposed to make you connect this idea that both Bruce and Lex sort of have a bizarre relationship to their past and their family. Like they keep their family legacy entombed, and they have like a toxic connection to it, you know?
Right.
I thought that was interesting production-wise, you know?
Yeah, not played up in the movie, really.
No, you watch the movie, completely passes you by. Like,
yeah.
But, you know, I'm glad that I learned that, I guess.
My big question about Lex and Bruce in this movie is why are they not working together?
Right, as a like business partners.
Right.
Well, like this stuff is played with a lot in like the comics and some of the cartoons, and you know, I feel like this movie particularly does a lot of hinting towards that, you know, relationships from other media.
Mm.
You know, like, do you remember how this was in the movies, in other movies, and in comic books and in cartoons?
Right.
And I feel like as a person who has seen other stuff like the animated series and all that, I can like sort of fill in that blank of saying like, oh, Bruce just doesn't like Lex because Bruce Wayne is supposed to be like an ethical businessman, not in this. But in a general sense, Bruce Wayne is supposed to be like this ethical businessman, whereas Lex is like a predatory capitalist.
Right.
Not in this.
Not in this.
We don't see any proceedings of how Wayne Enterprise is being run. The only one is that phone call in which Bruce Wayne allowed his slave workers to leave a tower that's about to be demolished.
Yeah. I was about to ask, do we even know if Wayne Tower got rebuilt? No, we don't.
I just got their insurance money.
It's an empty lot with a little sign that says property of Bruce Wayne. Fuckers.
In between parentheses, I'm not Batman.
And then it's bat branded.
The Alfred drives by there daily to water a couple of lilies. It's a good thing you mentioned that because I have a question for you.
Right.
So there's this particular sequence at this meeting where all three of them, Clark, Bruce, and Lex, are together. You know, they're in the same shot. They talk to each other briefly.
Yeah, it's like they get introduced to each other, basically.
First time they meet each other. Well, I assume it's inferred that Bruce and Lex have met before because they probably had business dealings before.
But it's the first time they meet Clark.
In the movie. Yeah, and the first time Clark meets any of them.
Yeah, because he doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, because he grew up under a rock. Did you get the impression that Lex was kind of crushing on Bruce?
No.
No? Like, I was kind of like... I thought that Lex kind of was kind of projecting some sort of jealousy of Bruce. Like, hey man, you should work together. Like, you know, like Bruce is like the, you know, he's cool. He's, you know, he's built. He's tall. He's a playboy.
Right.
He's probably just as rich as Lex, right?
Right.
Whereas Lex, in a way, his opposite. He's meek and short and awkward and not popular.
Mm.
And I feel like, you know, it was maybe not crushing, but sort of like, you know, somebody trying to get with the popular kids is like, hey man, you want to work with me? You know, like, come on, you know, I can do cool shit too, you know.
I mean, yeah.
But, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, you know, at this point, Lex is probably talking to Bruce while knowing he's Batman.
Yeah. And this is also where Clark sort of slowly figures out that he's Batman because he hears Alfred talking over his headset or whatever.
Yeah. I like the fact that in this movie, Batman is he's the least aware about anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who Superman is. He doesn't know about Lex's plan. A lot of defenders of this movie came after and said like, "Oh, this is the first movie where we get to see Batman doing detective shit."
Do we?
Like, Do we? Yeah, like, oh, he goes to like a fighting ring, like a fight club,
Clark does more detective work than fucking Bruce Wayne.
and then he uses like a software on a phone to track another phone, and that's it. That's it.
He goes to the slave market where people beat each other up. Oh my god!
Like, these are my employees.
He actually goes to the guy who ends up winning and like whispers something to him, and I was getting like Django Unchained vibes
Me
from
too.
like,
Yeah,
this is my slave.
yeah.
It's
Also,
like-
but it's also creepy that out of the two, Bruce Wayne has the black guy.
Yeah.
You know.
And there is the Lex Luthor henchman with the tattoo, the like two-headed eagle tattooed on his throat.
Yeah, KGB. At this party, we see that there was some sort of disaster in Mexico.
Yeah, during the celebration of the Day of the Dead, there was a factory destruction of some kind, and Clark
Explosion.
Clark notices this on the TV because all of the servants are watching it, and he decides, you know what, I'm not gonna follow Bruce, I'm gonna go save people. And we get a montage of Superman saving
I thought
things.
that was a good idea.
Yeah, I like that idea of like, okay, there are bigger things to do, and he goes and saves people. That's very Superman.
Like he goes like, this is kind of fishy, and I don't like this Bruce Wayne guy, and I think he might be Batman. But I got I operate on a different scale.
Yeah, I got stuff to do.
Yeah,
and we get the montage of Superman like saving stuff.
Which, if you put it on mute, it's a pretty good montage.
Yeah, except that it's ugly as hell.
I like the Day of the Dead stuff. I think that looks good.
I still think it looks too brown. The entire movie just looks brown.
Okay. I think that one scene is fine. Again,
yeah, that one is fine because it's like lit up by the fire apparently, and it's like in the night, and so it's like, okay, it has this like golden hue to it.
Yeah.
But then you see him like drag a ship across the ice, and you see him like save a ship that like blows up, and those two shots look very bad.
Yeah, they do. The costume when he lifts the shuttle,
right?
Well, like, looked terrible.
Yeah.
So during this sequence, this montage, Zack Snyder gets to regale us with one of his wisdom pearls. He says that he thinks that Superman doesn't want to save everybody. He just wants to do, quote unquote, what's right, or the right thing.
What the fuck does that mean?
This person is insane.
I like that we agree on this.
Of course, like... So,
what the fuck
but
does that even mean?
But it makes total fucking sense because they directed Henry Cavill, obviously, to have like this ambiguous fucking face that he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, he's constantly brooding.
Yeah, he just has like this vaguely sad expression while he's saving people.
He looks mildly
like,
congested.
Like, he looks like he hates doing this.
I actually have this is a little bit further in the movie when Superman saves Lois again. And I have a note that says, even Superman looks bored when saving Lois.
But he looks bored the whole time because...
Right.
It makes total sense with what Zack Snyder said, because that's what they were going for. It's like, Superman doesn't want to save people, actually.
Right.
He wants to do the right thing.
Whatever that means.
They don't know what that is. I guarantee you they don't know what that means. Because nobody knows what the fuck that means. And doing the right thing.
Steven, here I'm going to regale you with my bombshell about this movie I figured out watching it.
Please.
It's Dumb Watchmen.
Oh, please. Oh, my boy.
So
you have no idea how much of this is Dumb Watchmen.
So the thing that clued me into it was when we'll back up a little bit in the movie when Clark takes the ferry to Gotham because it's across the river. There's a sign that says "Welcome to Gotham," and it says "The end is nigh," which is a Watchmen reference.
Right.
Which of course Zack Snyder also directed. So it's a cute little like, haha, I also did Watchmen. And then it suddenly dawned on me, it's like, oh my god, Superman is Dr. Manhattan and Batman is Rorschach. I get it.
Well, Daniel, you would be surprised what character Zack Snyder in the commentary track compares Superman.
Okay.
He compares him to Ozymandias.
What? 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 That's the... No. 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 sorry, I'm just gonna, as somebody who actually quite likes the Watchmen comic and has actually used it as study material, like I've actually written reports on Watchmen. No,
Daniel, look. So I'm pretty sure it at least came across to him or to David S. Goyer or to whoever was writing the script the similarities with Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan.
right?
But
Because I would say if he had said Dr. Manhattan, I would have been like, okay, I get it.
no,
It's
but
still dumb.
the
but,
specific thing he said, because I don't want to be mean about it.
right.
What he said was Superman's sacrifice from Man of Steel is like Ozymandias' sacrifice at the end of Watchmen.
And what does he mean by his sacrifice, by the way?
If I were to guess, he refers to sacrificing Zod and the genocide. Remember that?
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But
But
still,
like, you know, the lesser evil idea.
right? But I'm still gonna say no.
I like how like you can't accept this as a reality.
No, seriously, because okay, I in this is going a little bit back to high school. In Danish high, no,
God damn it,
seriously.
we're never gonna finish.
So in Danish high school, which is
Right.
different from American high school, you have to write a final report,
Right.
which is part of your like final grade. And I decided to write about Watchmen, and I brought in a lot of like you kind of combine multiple studies you have. So I combined Danish with another class, and my Danish bit was an analysis of Watchmen from like its political angle and like how the different characters are derived on a political spectrum and things like that, and how they pair up with each other. It's not Ozymandias.
Did you fell out of your chair?
No, I hit my chair.
All right.
I'm putting my foot down. This is not Ozymandias.
I'm putting my foot down. I mean, hey, at least he didn't compare him to the comedian.
We go from Superman saving stuff to more people looking for stuff. You know, Lois is searching for the bullet or for information about said bullet. Clark is searching for the Batman, and Bruce is looking for Diana.
Well, because she stole
his doodad.
His doodad with all the information about
right.
the movie Justice League, all the
Yeah.
concept art and the scenes.
Because he basically finds her at a like at another museum, because Wonder Woman and museums. Where
No, wait. We have a scene, Daniel. Come on, this is important.
okay.
We have a scene with Scoot McNairy and Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah, with the wheelchair.
Right, and because Scoot McNairy lost his legs,
Right.
and he vandalized the Superman statue.
Hmm.
Which, why is there a Superman statue already?
I don't know.
What is it? It's been 18 months, right?
There's a Superman statue in the
center of Metropolis, right?
yeah, as like a memorial to the people who died during the.
Why is it of Superman?
Why is it of Superman? Why is it of the?
But wait,
I was about to make a comparison
wait,
to 9/11, but I'm not going to do it.
I didn't write this down, but I just remembered because Zack Snyder says, and he might have just said it. He might have just had a brain fart because this makes no fucking sense. He says that memorial
Right.
is a tribute to Superman's sacrifice.
But
what?
okay, I'm not even going to open that because that,
Right.
that just makes no
I
fucking
think he just made a mistake.
yeah, because that makes no fucking sense.
Is he talking about the genocide of the babies? The
baby Kryptonians?
Yeah,
why
the
would,
baby
why would
Kryptonians.
humans care about that? Are those
they don't give a shit about all the people that died in the
So are all the people on the like stone plaques behind the statue, are those of the Kryptonian babies that he murdered?
that nobody knows their names?
That nobody knows that it was just Kryptonian baby 1, Kryptonian baby 2.
All right, moving on because this
Moving-
is just a
yeah,
brain fart of a comment.
Yeah, Scoot McNairy gets set up by Lex Luthor to basically be a bomb in the Senate.
These fucking writers, they got really fucking cheeky here because they were like, you know, Scoot McNairy meets Lex Luthor and he's like, "What do you want?" You know, because he's like this down on his luck guy. He has no legs. You know,
Yeah,
he's from Forrest Gump with Lieutenant Dan,
yeah, yeah. Actually, now that you say it, yeah,
including the effects of removing the legs.
yeah.
And so, you know, Scoot McNairy is like, "What do you want?" And Lex Luthor is like, "I want to help you stand for something."
Yes, stand for something. I also like visibly rolled my eyes at that line. I was like, oh no.
Nobody looked at this and was like, "You know what? I don't think this is in good taste.
I mean, speaking of other things in good taste in that scene in particular, when we first see him, he's like sitting in the electric wheelchair that he gives Scoot McNairy, and he's sitting in as like the biggest asshole on the planet, just turning around. It's like, yo.
Well, okay, to be
you
fair,
want this?
You want people to think that Lex Luthor is an asshole because he's the bad guy.
We know he's an asshole.
Well, you gotta make him do stuff that makes him look like an asshole.
We've seen him up until this point. We know he's an asshole.
I know. I'm just.
We see Jesse Eisenberg. We know he's an asshole.
At the very least, Batman
Jesse.
didn't do it. Although I wouldn't have excluded it.
No, I wouldn't have excluded this Batman from doing it. Then again, I wouldn't have excluded this Batman from just shooting Lex Luthor in the face the first time he saw him. But we'll get
Batman goes and visits Scoot McNair's like, I bet you can't walk anymore, bitch.
But yeah, we get a lot of sequences of people searching for things, and Bruce, the most important one is basically Bruce runs into Diana, and basically she gives him the doodad again, and then she leaves because it's encrypted, and on it is something she wants. Spoiler, it's a photo of her from World War One. And then we get the best sequence. We get the nightmare sequence.
I thought you were talking about the sequence where Perry White logged into Clark's Dropbox, downloaded a format of the Daily Bugle article, printed it so he can rip it in front of Clark.
See, you told me about this sequence whilst I was watching the movie, and I was like, did that happen?
It goes by very fast, but I initially like went by me. And then I was like, wait a second. And then I went back and was like, what just happened? And then, so shout out to Dropbox, I guess.
Shout out.
But so Perry White logs in. I just want to go by this.
Fair.
Perry White. So Clark, I guess, is like a sports correspondent. I guess that's his job.
Perry White says to him at the beginning of the movie, "You're on sports," which is not how newspapers work, Perry.
And Clark keeps insisting on covering Batman.
Right.
Story of the vigilante in Gotham that he doesn't. You barely found out about him, but you want to cover him. You're the most qualified person to cover Batman, even though you don't know anything about him.
Even though you're technically a vigilante. I'm just saying.
And he wants to cover Batman, and Perry's like, you cover sports. Oh, sports is supposed to. And you get this scene where Perry White, comes in on Clark at the Daily Bugle with a printed out, unfinished format of the newspaper, very big, right? Like huge. Like, why is this so big? Why is it so big?
I don't know. Maybe the only printers they have can print newspapers. I don't know.
But newspapers are not the size of. They're not cartoon size for like giants.
I don't know, Steven.
So he has this giant paper, like it's the size of a table.
Right.
You can use it as a tablecloth if you want.
Right.
Giant newspaper with an unfinished format with what I assume was Clark's article that he submitted on his Dropbox. That I assume it's about Batman.
Right.
And Perry printed it and says, like, I logged into your Dropbox account to find that you didn't write about sports. You wrote about the Batman again. And then he proceeds to rip this unfinished huge newspaper in front of Clark. And I'm like, what the fuck?
So, Steven, I have completely blocked this thing from my mind. You're telling me it exists. I believe you. I'm not going to go back and check.
You're calling me a liar?
No, I'm not calling you a liar. I'm specifically saying it exists.
I rewinded 5 times, okay?
I'm telling you, it probably exists. I have just completely blocked it from my memory.
I know it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean anything, because Perry White's whole arc is nothing. It's nonsense.
90% of this movie is nothing.
But I'm just perplexed.
Yeah, I'm also perplexed by it. It's
now I'm actually wondering what the logistics of newspapers are like. Do editors in chiefs get to log in to other
to the
Dropboxes and see their articles? Or
no?
Do you submit articles through Dropbox?
I don't think you use Dropbox.
Do they automatically print on giant sheets of paper?
Yeah, that's I don't know.
Perry White in this movie feels like he's from a different movie.
I mean, he is from a different movie.
He's from Man of Steel.
He's from Man of Steel.
But he's like, he behaves like he's the cartoon mayor from like a Muppet movie.
Right.
Gosh darn it, Clark, you need to write about sports. You can't write about that darn tootin' Batman. Meanwhile, there's Senate hearings about bombings and shit.
Yeah.
And Pennywise is like, you need to cover sports. What's happening in baseball?
So we get to the nightmare sequence. And as with 90% of this movie, it's pointless. Well, it's useless, basically.
So we know this nightmare stuff, which is like an alternate future where apocalypse troops invade Earth.
Yeah, because we see parademons.
Yeah, we see parademons, which I know Kevin Smith lost his shit when he saw them, because he said that he lost his shit when he saw parademons in a movie.
I mean, he was probably high as a kite.
If you don't know what parademons are, which I barely knew when I watched this movie, what the fuck they were, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, you also see the giant Omega symbol in the ground, and you see
but
like
if
the
you're not a
pillars of
comic
fire.
book reader, you don't know what that is.
And to be fair, Doomsday is not Doomsday, sorry.
Dark Side.
See, this is the problem with having these. Anyway,
you made the same mistake in the Man of Steel.
And I'll keep making it.
Gosh darn it.
Darkseid is for as villain as big as he is in the DC sort of comic book canon or whatever, he's incredibly obscure.
Yeah, it's like when Marvel introduced Thanos for the first time, at the end of Avengers. They were smart of doing that at the end of Avengers, because you're like, oh, it's a tease for something. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you look it up. But again, if you don't know the cosmology or the whole new gods thing, it's so complicated. And to introduce it like this is so stupid. Like you said you see this Omega sign. And if I wasn't a comic book fan, seeing that is like, why is there a giant horseshoe in the middle of the city?
Yeah.
So we need to break down the logistics of this sequence. So Batman is decrypting the stuff from Diana in his Batcave.
Yeah, and it takes forever, so he falls asleep.
He falls asleep, we think. Wait a second.
We think.
Because it cuts from that to the nightmare sequence. We call it the nightmare sequence because it's completely isolated in tone and in presentation.
It's also what I think Zack Snyder calls it.
Yeah, and it's isolated from everything else in the movie, and it's by our own deduction takes place in some sort of alternate future because everything has changed and nothing is the same. Batman is wearing a trench coat over his Batman suit, which
must be warm as hell.
Yeah, what the fuck? Why does he still wear a mask? The world is ending, and he has goggles because Zack Snyder loves those goggles over that Batman suit.
Right.
Parademons attack and capture him, and Superman is now bad and kills him.
Yeah, and then he wakes up.
Yeah, and I just want to say, so in this scene, Batman falls asleep once from when he's decrypting that thing. He wakes up in this nightmare world.
Right.
He then passes out in the nightmare world when somebody bonks him on the head.
Yeah.
Wakes up again in the nightmare world and then Superman kills him. Then wakes up in his chair in the Batcave and sees the Flash from the future come in, and then he wakes up again.
So we've had a very long and very rambly sort of behind the scenes talk about this fucking scene because you
didn't remember that he wakes up again.
Yeah,
after
I thought
the Flash
he just woke
thing.
up and then Flash was there and then that was it. But no, he wakes the fuck up again. And when I was watching it, I was like, why? Is this like
with paper in the background fluttering, which would suggest that Flash was there?
Yeah,
physically.
Why does he wake up? Is it like? It reminds me of fucking Anti-Donna, where it's like, oh, there's no dead person, and it's like, why do you keep falling asleep?
And I was particularly waiting for Zack Snyder's comments on the commentary track on this scene because I was hoping he would explain what the fuck was going on, and he was like, "quote So he fell asleep, maybe. I'm not sure."
You wrote this to me, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm leaving.
And then he says that maybe Flash allowed him to see the future in his dreams.
How? That's not a Flash power.
Flash just fluttered his hands. He put his palm on Bruce Wayne's forehead, and he was like, "Dream, my son.
Dream, my son.
Dream of the future."
Do you want to hear my theory?
You have a theory on this?
That the second time he wakes up is actually just an alternate take that they forgot to edit out.
Yeah, it looks like that. I don't think they forgot to edit it out, but
in my headcanon, they forgot.
But it's so frustrating because, I am personally even in stupid things, I care about canon.
Right.
And I feel so bad for the writers of probably Flashpoint, because that's where they have to that's where they need to address something like this, time traveling shit.
Right.
And this makes no fucking sense.
You know who I feel really bad for?
The
people who went and saw this movie. Because they must have been so fucking confused.
Because there's no actual problem with the scene itself. The only thing you need to do is remove that the next time he wakes up, and it's fine.
That's why my headcanon is it's an alternate take they forgot to edit out.
It's so mind-boggling. Like, okay, you talked about casual moviegoers. Do you think, because two things could have happened. Casual moviegoers would have gone, oh, well, that was weird, and then continue to watch it because they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Or they were like, I guess I just don't get comic books.
Right. Like, seriously, it's even hard to understand that that's Flash coming out in front of him.
I remember when I first watched this, whenever this came out, 2016, I was like, is that Flash?
Same.
Is that Ant-Man from the Marvel movies?
Then we move on to the dock sequence where Batman is happily murdering people.
But did you know, Daniel, that right before this, when he has a brief conversation with Alfred,
right,
when he gives him if there's a 1% chance speech.
Oh yeah, the Dick Cheney speech?
Yeah, did you know that? Why did he put Dick Cheney words in Batman's mouth?
I have a theory, but we will get to that.
All right. So we move on to Batman murdering people
at the docks, which I don't actually remember why he is.
He's tracking the kryptonite.
Sure, but there's a sequence it's because they have to kryptonite, and then later he steals it. He steals it like basically right after this.
He fails to steal the kryptonite now
because Superman shows up and he bonks into Superman.
I thought that was very funny, the way Superman doesn't move at all.
He just casually stands there and just boop. Boop. I have two notes about that little sequence, which I call BBS Part 1, because it's basically the setup to their like boxing match.
Ding ding.
One, Ben Affleck is really tall. Like, he stands up in the seat of the Batmobile with Henry Cavill standing on the hood, and he's almost taller than Henry Cavill.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's tall.
He's a tall dude.
He's a tall dude. Also, this sequence, I don't get it. Like, why are they just not going, Bruce, stop this? Like, seriously, is Batman's suit lined with lead? Because Superman can't see through lead, which we also get told in this movie that we haven't been told for in Man of Steel. Superman threatens Batman, like, going, next time your light shines in the sky, don't go to it. And then Batman goes the "do you bleed" line. I love Superman's face before he flies away. He's just like, dude, what the fuck? And then he just flies away. And then Batman goes, you will. For himself.
This is... that exchange. Oh, okay, fine. So first of all, the whole Batmobile sequence, like, Batman murders people. He just murders a bunch of people.
Yeah, and that should be a big deal, but in this movie,
version of Batman, I can totally believe that he would murder people indiscriminately because he's an entitled prick.
Right.
Who thinks that his view of the world is absolute.
Right.
He's a maniac. He resembles a lot the version of Batman from the Frank Miller comics. Batman pretty much shreds the shit out of this truck that carries the kryptonite. And I was like,
machine guns.
Yeah, and I was like, thank God that little tracker that he planted remained on that one piece of track Batman didn't murder with his guns.
My favorite thing he does that just cements the fact that this guy is a fucking psychopath is the first car he breaks. He then fires a cable from the back of the Batmobile and drags the car behind him.
Why?
It's like, why? You've already, like, beaten these people to a pulp. They will never walk again if they're even alive.
He's playing mind games with them.
He's playing. Like, why?
All right. And second of all, the discussion between Superman and Batman. Man, like, it just comes across like a discussion between like two idiot jocks. Like, yo, bro, you're like they're high on Gatorade or something. Like,
Yeah.
yo, bro, when your light shine, kind don't go, man. And like, you bleed, bro. Do you bleed, bro?
This is, oh my god.
They're like two meatheads. They're like the dumbest people in the world.
Yeah, and
They have no social skills whatsoever.
then we get to the Granny's peach tea thing, which is the explosion at the Capitol. Superman looks very sad as he stands in the flames of all these people dying, and then he leaves.
Wait a second. Again, another piece of fun trivia that I got
Right.
from the Snyder commentary.
Hit it.
So in between this, there's a scene of Batman receiving a package that we found out when they cross-cut with the Congress bombing sequence that it's a note saying that you let them die.
It's the benefit checks to Scoot McNairy's character.
Yeah, and it's supposed to egg Batman on to want to kill Superman or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and they are actually sent by Lex Luthor. because
Yeah, it's
Luthor is.
manipulation because Batman's an idiot and
Yeah.
can be easily manipulated.
Everybody's
by...
an idiot in this movie.
So, in that sequence, in the background of that shot, there's a portrait of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played Thomas Wayne.
Right.
And I found out from the commentary that Zack Snyder populated a bunch of the sets with his own personal property and memorabilia.
Is that painting one of them?
Yeah, that's a Jeffrey Dean Morgan portrait unrelated to the production of this movie that he owns, which was in his gym. Why?
Okay, I almost want to scratch this entire episode and just talk about that for like 2 hours.
Right? Why do you have a portrait of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in your gym?
Like, okay, I understand if you had this portrait made and then you, after the production wrap, was like, hey, can I keep that portrait?
Nope.
That's kind of funny.
No, he had that before. I assume from Watchmen, or from working with him on Watchmen or something.
But
It comes across that they're pals or friendly
right,
or something.
but I'm trying to like rewind through my memory
Daniel,
of Watchmen, going like, where would this
Are
portrait
you
have been?
telling me that you do not have a portrait of me in your gym?
I don't have a gym.
But where do you keep all the portraits of your friends?
Buried.
I thought you were going to say I don't have any friends.
No, I have friends somewhere.
Yeah, but if you don't have portraits of them, how do you know that they're your friends?
I just told you I have them buried.
All
Not
right.
my friends, the portraits of my friends. This is what this movie is doing to us.
All right. So that was weird.
Yes.
There's not much else. There's just it was weird.
Yeah, the Capitol blows up.
Zack Snyder said about the bombing of the Senate that it is not simple to Superman.
To what? Just stand there and mope?
It's again what he says comes across completely in the movie because they gave Henry Cavill nothing. Like
Literally.
the Senate blows up.
Yeah.
You just kind of I don't know
Scoot McNairy blows up, and he
Yeah.
he takes the Senate with him.
how much TNT was packed in that chair.
We figure out that Lex Luthor is making like magic bullets that apparently the Senate can't find after people have been burned. Apparently,
Right.
because otherwise they would look at these burned corpses and go, "They have bullets in them." Superman didn't do this.
And another thing in the Senate thing is that we're supposed to get that Lex Luthor outsmarted the Senate, more specifically the Michigan senator lady played by Holly Hunter.
Yeah, and that's the
with
granny's
the peach tea.
the piss jar. Yeah.
The piss jar. It's such a weird thing to do, man.
Could you just imagine being like, whoever came up with this, whether it was Chris
Who pissed
Terrio?
in the jar? Was it Scoop McNairy?
I mean, maybe.
Because maybe he's paralyzed and he uses like colostomy bags.
He does actually have a line where he says, "I can't stand up to piss anymore."
It must be Scoop McNairy. Holy shit, Daniel, you cracked the case.
We cracked this case wide open. See, I always had the thought that the reason why Mercy doesn't have more of a character is because this is her contribution to the plot.
Mercy, fill her up.
I feel really bad about saying that.
Have we gotten to your best character in the movie?
No.
What the fuck?
I told you will never get it.
All right. So the Senate get bombed.
Yeah. Superman helps one person out and then he leaves.
And yeah, he seems kind of vaguely upset, but not really.
Yeah.
Again.
he looks literally, we see him standing in like the flames of the Capitol as it blows up.
Maybe he was silently cringing at that one guy who had the no alien tattoo on one side of his head. He's like, man, don't do that.
I would also kind of cringe at that guy. But when he's standing in the flames, he just looks like somebody who forgot to turn his stove on.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck. So Batman then steals the kryptonite, we figure out.
One of the only cool Batman action shots, and it's on a security footage that you can barely see.
Yeah, but it kind of works.
Could we have not seen like Batman do some stealth action like in the fucking Arkham games, which is what that sequence was anyway?
Right.
Because it's exactly the Arkham move of him on a gargoyle and picking somebody up. It looked cool.
Yeah, but
I wanted to see it.
Superman has a brief talk with Lois, which is like a conflict of faith moment, and it's like I was basically yelling at the screen like, "What faith?" Because Superman is a nothing burger in this thing.
Yeah, so Superman doesn't want to save people, Daniel.
We'll get to that.
He just wants to hang out and play video games.
Lex Luthor gains access to the Kryptonian ship using a fistful of Zod's fingerprints, and uses it to basically override.
So wait, question: has nobody been able to access the ship up until this point?
No.
Is it impervious?
It's Kryptonian.
Can it not be blown up or any? Okay, fair enough.
And inside, he basically overrides so that he basically does the Lex Luthor thing from Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Which is like he overrides so that he becomes the owner, whatever, of the ship.
Yep.
And gains all the knowledge. And this includes turning Zod's corpse into Doomsday, which apparently is a thing that they could.
Don't forget that he also mixes his own blood.
Yeah.
So he's Doomsday's daddy.
Doom Daddy.
Doom Daddy.
Which, honestly, in hindsight, a thing that Lex Luthor usually does in the comics is he wears a giant mechanized suit that basically...
Like kryptonite powers, right?
Right. That basically is like, that's the way he like physically fights Superman.
Right.
And in Man of Steel, Zod says that they went to multiple worlds and found a lot of tech, including the world engines. So instead of having Doomsday, why didn't you just have Lex Luthor in a super suit?
I don't know. Maybe it would have looked a bit weird.
And the troll from Fellowship of the Ring looks better?
What do you want me to say, Daniel? Is there a winning option here?
No. And then Superman has the darkest line in the entire movie, which is, "Did the nightmares ever stop?" Because he said that he could hear like their horses drown or something. And then Pa Kent goes that the nightmares did stop when he found Martha, when he found his mom. Or when he found, Superman's mom.
Right.
And this brings up this idea of like a person leaning on somebody else, usually a woman, or in this movie, 100% a woman, and they becoming their like rock, like their world, he calls them.
Right.
It's kind of funny when you put that in perspective to what Park Kent actually does in Man of Steel, which is, in order to win an argument with his son, he fucking kills himself by a tornado. Doesn't give two shits about what Martha Kent thinks. And Superman does the exact same thing in this movie. He literally tells Lois, "You are my world," before ramming himself into Doomsday and dying.
I mean,
selfishly.
Consistency, right?
I mean, I'll give Zack Snyder this is consistent bullshit.
Like, it's obvious that this is what him and I would argue David S. Goyer. A lot of people focus on Zack Snyder only because he's sort of the face of it, but
right.
a lot of this shit is on David S. Goyer as well.
I mean, I'll also put some of it on Chris Terrio.
Yeah,
because he's also the writer of this.
Right, but he wasn't the writer of Man of Steel. But whatever.
No.
I feel like a lot of this is, bleeds into the kind of worldview that they want you to take out of this movie, which is you shouldn't do things out of your own altruism.
It's objectivism.
And it makes no fucking sense. Like, you don't do things in society like the way Pa Kent did it. He saved their farm, right? And he saved their town,
Yeah.
and he flooded somebody else's farm as a result.
And because of that, he couldn't do it, and then everything was good. Something had to go wrong because he did something,
Right. But then he somehow connects that to his wife.
Mm.
And I don't see it as in, are you supposed to look at your partner as a filtration mechanism for your fucked up guilt,
Yeah.
Like,
Or
people are not made to hold your guilt. You're supposed to, make sense of your own mistakes or actions or whatever.
so now we get to my favorite character in the entire movie, which
Who?
is Jenna Malone.
Who?
She plays Lois's like contact person in somewhere.
Blonde girl with glasses?
Blonde girl with glasses, because she
Are you fucking kidding
no,
me?
she's my favorite character in the entire movie because she looks at the bullet and goes, "This thing's fucking stupid." That line is the reason, because this movie is dumb and I hate it.
Fair enough. I remember her, but like Lois's plot,
which is like bad version of All the President's Men, basically.
right? It was so pointless that I barely paid attention to it.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to follow. Like, what is she doing? She's like following this fucking bullet.
Yeah.
Why?
She figures out that bullet is made by LexCorp, and why? What is that even important?
All of her work just ends in her being thrown off the roof of a building.
And this just sets up this entire thing of like Lex basically goading Superman into fighting Batman.
Yeah.
Because first he throws Lois off a building, which Superman saves her. Then he flies up to Luthor, who's standing on a helicopter pad. And Superman has the very friendly Superman line of, "I'll take you in without breaking you."
Which is more than you deserve.
Yeah.
It's like, did they mismatch with Batman's dialogue?
Yeah. And Lex basically says, if you want your mom to come back, if you want your mom alive, because I know that you're Clark Kent for some reason.
And he shows him pictures of his mom being held at an undisclosed location.
Right. And if he wants him back, he has to bring him the head of the bat. And he has like an hour, or less than an hour.
Lex gives him a bit of his rapturous speech,
right.
that Lex tends to do throughout the movie's runtime. Of like, God can be all powerful, but it cannot be all good.
Yeah.
It makes like horse noises. Oh my God. He comes across as ultra religious, he, right?
Sure, but he also has all of these mannerisms and things that, I don't know, if you were an idiot and didn't know how to research this, could seem like a person trying to write somebody on the spectrum, which just comes off as like inherently insensitive. Again, I don't know what they were going for with Lex. I was hoping you could explain it.
I can slightly, because there are some interviews with Jesse Eisenberg from so Jesse Eisenberg says something really stupid in the behind the scenes interviews, which is, he says Lex has a Freudian psychology.
What? Sure.
I can kind of understand, because a lot of it comes across in some lines that Lex Luthor understands the world a lot through the prism of his father,
right?
And his complex. He has kind of a Freudian complex with his father, in the sense that
he kind of hates God because God didn't save him from his father's fists, which his words.
Yes.
Things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, it's not that far off from how. Like, have you ever seen interviews with Elon Musk?
I've seen like one or two. Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's like on the spectrum or anything, but people who are in big tech, who are stupid rich, tend to act abnormal because of how much in the bubble they are.
Sure, but I don't know, this portrayal just read to me more that it wasn't like, okay, you mentioned earlier how you could kind of do a duality between Bruce and Lex.
Yeah.
Where it's like Bruce is like, he's the playboy, he's the big guy who's buff and everything, and Lex is like the complete opposite. He's the nerd.
Yeah.
But this to me read not as that kind of character. It read more as like, okay, this is a guy who has like mental problems or something like that.
Yeah, well, they
Not
push
that
it.
being on the
They
spectrum
push
is-
it too far. That's the problem. Because
Yeah.
nothing in this movie is subtle. So they just fucking
Yeah,
they drove the stick into the ground.
and that's why I was like, okay, I could kind of see them doing this. Not that it's good or anything.
I can see a version of this that could work. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I could see the idea being like, okay, what if Lex was a like slightly on the spectrum, which made him a bit socially awkward and things like that. But it's just driven so far that it's like,
Oh yeah. Well, that comes across a lot in his speech at the Metropolis
yeah,
library or whatever.
yeah,
Because that's supposed to be one of his crowning thing. Like he's a contributor and everybody's here to listen to his speech.
and he keeps
And-
fucking up the speech.
Yeah, and he says a bunch of nonsense, and everybody's like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?"
Mhm.
Like nobody likes him. It's very obvious,
right,
and I think that's supposed to feed into his his like warped vision of the world where he thinks it's not stated, but at least I can kind of extrapolate this idea of like he believes that if he can achieve a greater power, like a Superman level power, if he can control Superman, which
Right.
is something that he wants to do in the comics as well, if he can achieve that level, people might respect him. Because he knows, I think, that people actually don't respect him.
but this also ties into like this entire idea of our three male leads, let's call them that, which
Yeah.
is Bruce, Clark, and Lex,
Right.
Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor, is to me sort of reads, all of them kind of reads as one kind of the same person.
Oh, you pretty much said the thesis of my conclusion of the movie. Yes.
And they're all like a version of like toxic masculinity in a way. Then we get the Batman v Superman fight, because again, these people can't take 2 seconds to talk to each other,
No, nobody has communication skills in this universe.
because that's what weak men have.
Yeah. Strong men fight with their fists.
Yeah. What did you think of the
in a not gay way?
So, what did you think of the fight? The title bout of this movie, literally.
I mean, and a lot of people said this when it came out. It's underwhelming. It's short. It's nonsense in the sense that
It's both short and too long.
yeah, and it's illogical in a lot of ways because of
Right.
how they set it up. Like, I
Right.
get that you want to showcase Batman versus Superman because it's an interesting idea. Because one is it's man versus God, like they say a bajillion times.
Yes, like Lex says a bajillion.
Yeah, it could have worked if you just set it up properly, but because there's this urgent thing that Superman just has to say to Batman,
Hey, we're being duped.
yeah, and they both come across as such dumbasses because one, Superman cannot somehow immobilize Batman instantly, even though he is a literal god who has super speed and super strength and whatever, but he doesn't do that, even though it is urgent to him to save his
Right.
mother. And on
But
the
not,
other side,
but
it's,
not urgent enough that he doesn't want to slap Bruce around a little bit.
well, he doesn't have to. He just, okay, this is really urgent. I'm just gonna fucking fly through the ground, surprise attack him, immobilize him, fucking crush his armor so that he can't move.
Hell,
You
he
don't
does-
have to break anything in his body.
He doesn't even need to land. Like
Right.
we see like Batman turns on the bat signal and we see like lightning strikes and we see Superman in the sky. He doesn't even need to fucking land.
Right.
He could just be like,
you
"Yo."
know what? Why they did that though is because they wanted to convey that visual metaphor of God coming down to man's level.
Right?
He says that in the fucking commentary. But if again, this doesn't make any sense. Like if you need to take care of Batman really quick, just fly with him into the atmosphere until he passes out, come back, slap him around a bit so he wakes up, and then just tell him what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, or just like yell at him.
You could argue.
He could
Fine.
fucking have yelled at him from across the city and be like, "Yo, Bruce, we're being duped."
Yeah, you could argue. We're being a bit, But
Yeah.
you could argue that what Superman was trying to do was appear to be non-hostile. as a sign of friendship. Because
he does a very good job of that, throwing Batman through buildings.
yeah, it degenerates into nonsense. But I could see
it goes into like Superman being a fucking horror movie character.
Yeah.
Because
well, they're both like two horror. They're like, it's like Jason versus Freddy.
Batman uses kryptonite in form of gas to like remove his powers, but there is a moment where like Batman keeps wailing on him and he slowly regains like his powers, which
That was pretty cool.
that was pretty cool. But then like instead of Superman just going, okay, let's hold this, he like floats a little bit up and like rams him through the fucking foundation of this building.
You stretch your arms forward and grab his arms and just hold him.
Yeah, and be like, yo, stop.
So it's like somebody said, we need a showcase for IMAX.
Right.
Let's have like a fight between Superman and Batman. And
yeah, but it's,
you
it makes no sense because this is the entire like this is the point of the movie is,
but it doesn't showcase anything that we actually wanted to see from the characters. Like, obviously Superman has brute strength in spades, and what I wanted to see, or what I thought I was gonna see, and what we have seen in other incarnations of this thing,
because they fought each other multiple times over the comics.
Yeah, in comics and in animated series.
Right.
The World's Finest, check it out, it's a good animated movie. Actually,
there's also the animated version of The Dark Knight Returns, which also has an okay version of.
Oh yeah, it has pretty good fight in that one. But I wanted to see Bruce excel through his intelligence and his ability to trick Superman. And you could argue that's what he's doing here, but it's in such a brutish and stupid way.
I wouldn't even argue he does that, because all he does is just keep throwing weapons at him. And it's like...
Yeah, but you could argue he strategically is moving Superman towards the kryptonite spear.
Sure, but...
You saw that he uses these little... like smoke grenades.
Yeah.
They're actually laced with lead.
So wait, Batman is throwing lead gas around?
Yeah.
Fucking...
Which, if he inhaled it, he would have died.
Just imagine. I thought it was just a play on like the classic, Batman throws a smoke grenade and then he's gone. That was all I thought it was, and I thought it was
in
kind of
his
cute.
fight with Superman. There's supposed to be lead. It's supposed to be lead gas because Superman can't see through lead.
Just imagine. Okay, one, how does he know that? Two, I just imagine him doing it the first time and then just collapsing out of lead poison.
Alfred.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Steven. You just made that movie way more enjoyable.
Yeah, you're welcome, I guess.
I guess.
When Batman, is rotating Superman on his grappling hook, like wee wee.
Yeah,
it's kind of like something that maybe you would see in like a Superman Batman attraction ride.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
If you just, again, like a lot of other things in this movie, if you take it in like a bubble,
right,
it's whatever.
And then we get to Martha.
Yeah, the moment that has perplexed the internet pretty much until today.
It still does. Still
does. Well, because it's the culmination of how, like we talked about this in Man of Steel, and it's true for Batman in this and Superman again, is that their scope of what they understand about the world and about each other is so narrow.
Right.
That, like, again, is Batman this stupid?
Yes.
That if somebody says the word Martha, he just breaks. He's like, what? He doesn't say Martha. What if Batman... I don't know why he would say this, but what if Superman said Martha Wayne? He would just he would just fall on his knees and puke.
The thing I find, however, kind of funny from a like filmmaking and storytelling perspective is the setup for the entire Martha thing is way back at the beginning when we see the Waynes die, and we have Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Thomas Wayne saying Martha. So
right.
I just read it as it's not even Batman remembering his mom, it's Batman remembering his dad saying his mom's name. just to stomp on it a little more, that the moms in these movies don't matter.
Yeah, it's not about his mom, it's about his father's memory of his mom.
It's his father's last words.
Jesus Christ. It's insanity.
Yeah.
How stupid this is. And I still remember that grotesque shot that they had at the beginning of Bruce Wayne's mom's pupil dilating.
Oh, and her pearls are like caught
Oh,
on
the fucking pearls.
Which, honestly, there's a fun little trivia about the pearls.
Sure.
So in the opening sequence, we see the gun sort of get tangled up with the pearls, and I can't remember what the guy's called. Shoots.
Joe Chill.
Joe Chill. He shoots, and that breaks the pearls. However,
Right.
the pearls they like fall all over the place because it's like classic imagery. But actual expensive pearls would not do that because they're all tied in together. So Thomas Wayne is buying cheap pearls.
He's a cheapskate.
He's a cheapskate.
It is very hilarious how Lois runs into the scene and yells, "It's his mom's name!"
Just imagine being Lois Lane for that moment. Like running in, seeing your boyfriend, who's a god, lying
Right.
on the ground next to a guy in a fucking wearing a tank for a suit with a glowing spear, crying over the fact somebody said Martha. It's like she must be so confused.
I'm a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter.
What the fuck am I? I just imagine her like coming halfway into the room and it's like, "Why did you say Martha? Why did you say that name?" And she just stops and just turns around and leaves. It's like, you know what? I got better things to do here.
Yeah, I'm gonna report on Benghazi or some shit.
And then she takes the kryptonite spear and throws it away. She throws it in a bit of water, and then she has to go get it again. Which
Right, so we pretty much go from that to the Batman warehouse fight.
Right, because he goes and saves Martha, and Superman goes to Lex to basically go like, "You've lost," and then he goes like, "Nope, Doomsday."
Doomsday. Sorry, it's a dubstep sound that goes like that. Yeah, so Superman goes after Lex, and Batman goes after Martha, Superman's mom, in a warehouse.
More Batman murdering people.
More Batman murdering people. I like that in the Ultimate Cut, they made a point of the fact that he murders people, because you know that there's a sequence where he throws a crate.
Yeah,
sorry,
and it hits a guy, and there's blood splatter on the wall.
Because that wasn't in the. No. It's not in the behind the scenes. It was added digitally.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
because this movie is R-rated.
Yeah, man, it's R-rated, bro. Batman killing people. What? I mean, it's well choreographed, I guess. Batman murdering people in the warehouse.
Right.
I like that he shoots KG Beast's propane tank that he has on his back, and he bursts into flames.
Because KG Beast is basically the guy looking after Martha, and he has this idea that he wants to murder her with a fucking flamethrower instead of a handgun. Because
Batman uses somebody else's gun to shoot that propane tank, and bursts into flames in front of Martha.
Yeah, and then Bruce jumps on Martha and like protects her from the flames using his cape or whatever. And then he's like, "I'm a friend of your son's," and Martha goes, "I guessed." Which, did you?
We were fighting like 5 minutes ago.
I almost beat him. I basically beat him.
Like, I almost beat him, you know. I would have gotten him if he would have what? If he didn't say my mommy's name.
I just imagine him coming up like after the explosion, instead of saying I'm a friend of your son's, just going, "Will you be my mommy?" But then there's a little shot after that of like the people come and they get Martha, like people in ambulances and stuff, and you see the bat plane fly away, and Martha like takes both hands in the air and like waves at him, and it's just like, "Yep, right."
I remember that, and I was like, what? Okay, moving on.
And there's the Doomsday fight.
Right, so Lex Luthor used the ship which had some sort of DNA conversion thing to convert Zod's body, which by the way is not Michael Shannon, it's a cast. It's not actually him.
Which I remember reading something that he was actually on set for the movie, but I might remember that wrong.
Zack Snyder makes a joke about how, like, wouldn't it be funny if Michael Shannon would have flew in a helicopter just to play a corpse? And then he said, like, oh no, it's a cast off or something. So he uses the ship to convert Zod's body into Doomsday, which is a famous, it's a known character from the comics and from the Death of Superman story arc that was very popular in the 90s, in which Superman died.
Yep.
I think in the comics, Doomsday is also Kryptonian, but he's
He's a super weapon or something like that.
Yeah, he's an experiment that Kryptonians did.
Which they kind of hint at in this movie, because before he starts creating Doomsday, the computer says something like this procedure or whatever was forbidden by the High Council of Krypton, and then Luthor goes, what happened to the High Council of Krypton? And he goes, they're dead. And it's like, well, and then he goes on with making Doomsday. So this may not be Doomsday.
The AI is like, touche.
But yeah, so this may not be the only Doomsday. He looks like the troll from Fellowship of the Ring.
He does look a lot like that troll.
Yeah.
He looks a bit better as he evolves.
Yeah, because he gets the spikes.
If man will not kill God,
and then
the devil will.
And then they have this thing of, like, he keeps blowing up whenever he evolves. So he ends up nuking Metropolis again.
No, because he's in uninhabited areas.
No, he's downtown, which is where the ship is, which they say on the news is almost empty because the workday is over. Then Superman throws him in orbit, and the U.S.
military nukes him.
Yeah, which could you just imagine that in the real world? Like, what would Russia do if the U.S. suddenly fired a nuke?
They'd be like, well, finally. Dunk.
And then he lands on an uninhabited island, and then Batman gets him to the docks, which he goes, they're abandoned. To hell, they're abandoned, Batman. You've been there 90% of this movie. We've seen you kill people on this docks.
After he says that, he says to Alfred via their comms, I got to get it to chase me back to Gotham, back to the Kryptonite.
Because the Kryptonite spear is back at the docks.
Just go by yourself.
Yeah, I was also like, why don't you just leave this thing here and just go get it yourself? Like, why do you need it to chase you? You're a dude in a plane. Like,
this movie makes no sense. I do, again, pointing out a specific visual that looked cool. When Superman is recovering in space from the nuclear blast, he's like rotating slowly. I thought that looked cool.
Although, so that's also a shot taken from Dark Knight Returns, by the way.
Yes.
I did, however, like the second version of that shot, which is you see like sunlight hit him. And then,
and he has the old man face?
Yeah, he has old man face that goes back into young man face, and then he opens his eyes and it's just laser eyes and the music swells and it's like, oh my god, our destroyer has arrived. Again, Superman is a horror movie villain in this movie.
Yeah. And then Wonder Woman decides to cancel her Turkish airline flight.
Yeah. And show up. I was questioning, does she have her Wonder Woman costume in one of those bags? So that means she has a sword and a shield in that bag.
Yeah, sure.
She brought that on an airplane.
Maybe she bought a Wonder Woman cosplay outfit from one of the stores, because if we go by Wonder Woman 1984, she's well known by this point, so there would be cosplay stores of her throughout the world. But of course, nobody knows who the fuck she is.
Yeah, because Perry White won't
any of this ahead.
Perry White won't print newspapers about her because she's an urban legend.
Because he only cares about sports.
Exactly. So,
and then we get the famous line that was in all the trailers, and it's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life, where Batman. So they're all three together in the same shot. And all the DC nerds creamed their pants in the theaters, and Batman. So we see that Wonder Woman is probably the most capable fighter out of all three of them, and probably She could probably take Doomsday by herself.
I mean, she does
based
a
on
pretty
what-
good job by herself.
Yeah,
Superman
based
does
on what we
nothing but
see.
get thrown around.
And Batman is useless.
Yeah, Batman does nothing because he's Batman.
Superman says, "Is she with you?" And Batman says, "I thought she was with you."
Which is like,
And
Bruce, you know she's with you. Well, she's
like,
with none
is the
of you, but,
implication
yeah.
that women in this universe exist only if they're with other men?
Yeah. But
Like they are either their girlfriends or the wives of other men, and literally Superman cannot, because he's so stupid and so dumbheaded. He sees a woman and he's like, "But who is she with?" Instantly, in the middle of a fight with the most powerful thing he ever encountered. Batman, really quick, who is this woman with?
I just imagine like the Snyder Cut version of this movie, where instead of going, "Is she with you?" he just looks at Batman and goes, "Are you hitting that?" Oh my god! But,
No, in the Snyder Cut, Superman looks at Batman and never acknowledges Wonder Woman ever.
yeah, but the thing I find hilarious is that in the context of the movie, let alone the optics of it, because as you stated, it is quite bad. But even in the context of the movie, like, Batman knows who this is.
Yeah!
He's met her. He's
Yeah!
talked to her. He's interacted with her. So this entire I thought she was with you. Makes no sense. Like, I get it.
Why did you think that?
I get it as a joke for the trailers, but come on.
And it hammers down on the fact that Batman is the worst detective in the world in this. He cannot even make like basic deductions based on like cues in the scene.
Yeah.
I thought she was with you, and I just wish they would have like cued in a sigh from Alfred over the comms, like.
So, Steven, what do you think of Wonder Woman in this movie?
Like, she's barely in it. Like
Right, she's a glorified cameo.
She's a glorified cameo from what she does in the fight with which is most of what she does in the fight with Doomsday.
Right.
Again, it's really impressive compared to the other two knuckleheads
Who does nothing.
who do nothing.
And less than nothing if you're Batman.
Then the question is that she kind of becomes an impediment in the story, in the sense that nothing that comes after this has to happen because we see that she's so good. So, spoiler alert, Batman has to sacrifice, Superman sacrifices himself to kill Doomsday. But I'm like, Wonder Woman could have shoved that spear into Doomsday,
like, Why didn't you just throw the spear to Wonder Woman and she just threw it at him or whatever?
Because that would have been Wonder Woman killing Doomsday, and Superman has to kill Doomsday.
Because it's Doomsday and Superman
I
has to
remember
die.
hearing people making arguments for this, and they were like, well, Wonder Woman doesn't have the strength to push the spear inside Doomsday.
She literally holds him down.
She cuts his hand!
She cuts his hand off. She like, before Superman... I mean, you could argue that she's holding him in place so that Superman can ram in him. But anyway, like, she holds him with the lasso of truth and holds him down.
This whole thing is pointless anyway, but if they really wanted to kill Superman...
Right.
They could have done that thing from, like, Dragon Ball Z, where Superman is holding Doomsday, like, from the behind. Like, with his arms around him,
right?
In place, and Wonder Woman, hesitatingly pushes the spear through both of them.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
We just fixed the entire movie. I mean,
no, because this whole thing is still stupid. Because Superman doesn't have to die in this at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's so perplexing because Batman talks to Alfred and he says, like, I only have one cartridge left because I used all of my kryptonite cartridges on my stupid fight with Superman.
Yeah, he's like bullets.
Yeah, he has kryptonite bullets, and he remembers, I have the spear which is pure kryptonite, which is why he wants to lead Doomsday to Gotham. And I'm like, okay, Batman, you know that you have the kryptonite sphere. Why are you not going to get it then? Because then Lois is going after the spear, and she she's so bad at it that she drowns.
Yeah, she almost kills herself doing it. And it's just like, and it's just another moment for Superman to save Lois, which is what, third time in this movie?
Yeah, it's all leading to this contrived thing of Superman saying to Lois, "You're my world," and then doing, like you said, the Pa Kent thing of sacrificing himself
without thinking about, the people in his life.
Like look around you for 2 seconds, like, there's Batman over there, there's Wonder Woman over there. They seem to be helping. Well, Batman less so, but Wonder Woman seems to have a grasp of what's going on.
Wonder Woman's helping more than both of them combined, let's be fair.
So what if I just, whistle and then throw the spear to Wonder Woman, maybe not point first, but and then tell her, shove it in the big guy, not Batman, the other big guy.
He is a big guy.
And then, but no, he just goes full hog and shoves the spear in, and then
he whole hogs that spear into him.
Yeah, and then Doomsday kills him, and it's supposed to be another sort of biblical thing.
Yeah,
it's like a thing from the Bible, right? Like the spear, Longinus, Evangelion.
That's another commentary. That's another episode.
Do you want to hear something fucking crazy about this Death of Superman thing?
Sure.
When both of them die, when Superman and Doomsday die,
right,
they scream. There's a scream by Superman and Doomsday that wakes up other mother boxes. This is from the commentary track.
Okay, I know that in the new trailer for the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, or whatever you want to call it,
right?
They use the death scream of Superman as like a calling to Darkseid that Earth is now ready to be invaded, which is why he sends Steppenwolf and whatever the fuck.
I did not know this.
No, you see like the sound waves come out of him as he screams, and you have the Lex Luthor, like the bell has been rung, the god is dead kind of a thing that he says at the end of this movie. And
also, this is the bell has been rung thing? It's the... Oh... Now it all makes sense.
Because that's...
in the stupidest way possible.
It's sort of hinted at that that's what he gets from the whole Steppenwolf hologram interaction that we see when the police comes and arrests Lex.
So it's kind of like the forces of Darkseid were waiting for the death of Superman, and when he dies, that's kind of their cue to like, boys, let's move in.
Yeah, why they didn't invade in like the 30 years when Superman was just a kid? I don't know.
Yeah, and apparently their scream wakes up mother boxes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And that's how... Oh yeah, and he says that that's how Steppenwolf can find them, because they're now awoken because of the Doomsday scream. Why? I
mean, yeah.
Shrug.
And then we basically just get sad funeral for Superman, which means nothing because he's going to be alive again in the next movie, and we know this at the end of this movie because we see like dirt flying. Batman has a dumb speech.
Again, this whole movie retroactively feels like a build-up towards Clark's decision to sacrifice himself. You can kind of see his ambiguous views on what he's doing as Superman as a reluctancy to accept the ultimate gesture of protecting the world, which is sacrificing himself. But
right,
it's so contrived and stupid that he didn't have to do it in the first place, and it doesn't make sense for him to feel sad about something that he doesn't know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm giving it so much leeway, but you can kind of say that, well, yeah, but maybe he's thinking that, oh, this is going to end one way for me because I'm so exposed as a superhero that I'm going to end up dying, probably.
Right.
But none of this is explained at all in the movie. I'm just fucking spitballing because I want this to make sense in some form.
Mean, I started going in because I knew you were watching the commentary or listening to the commentary track. And
right.
I sort of went at it from a different angle, which was to try to understand Zack Snyder's politics, quote unquote. Because I'm in two minds about it. So we know that Zack Snyder is a big fan of Ayn Rand. He has a production company named the Stone Quarry Productions, which is a reference in The Fountainhead, an Ayn Rand novel.
But Daniel, who is Ayn Rand?
Okay, Ayn Rand she's like a political philosophical person.
She wrote some books.
She wrote
Whatever.
she wrote a lot of books. Most famously, she wrote Atlas Shrugged, which is a giant metaphor for her like political ideology, which is known as objectivism. Which, to quote Atlas Shrugged, this is why I dug out my copy of it. Which objectivism can be described as: in society, we don't owe anything to one another, and acting like we do is harmful. This is a direct quote from one of the main characters of Atlas Shrugged. The idea
it's paralleled in the speech. It's a brief speech that Diane Lane gives to Superman, where she says, like, you don't own this planet anything. You know? Like, be their savior or be none of it.
Yeah.
You know,
which is
it's exactly the same.
Which is kind of a parallel to what Jonathan Kent says in the first movie, where it's like, sure, you could have let people die, kind of a thing, or like the entire Jonathan Kent thing in the last movie.
Right. Exactly.
And the idea of objectivism is the idea of selfishness, not in a positive way. It's basically an ideology to be the biggest asshole you can.
Yeah, hardcore capitalism.
Capitalism is also one of the 4 tenets of objectivism. I dug up the tenets.
What are the tenets?
Okay, tenet number 1 is reality exists as an objective absolute, which means reality is existence. Number 2 is reasons is our means of perceiving that reality. So reason is good.
All right.
So it basically, it's kind of self-important, like obvious things, but within the ideology, it's kind of the idea of like, okay, we need to objectively look at reality.
All right.
Then there's selfishness.
Selfishness.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which is, you have to work for your own interests. The idea is basically we are all entitled and must achieve our own happiness. However, one of the biggest problems with Ayn Rand is she never acknowledged privilege, that some people have inherent privilege, and that she also finds altruism to be bad, which is the idea of helping others. And then the 4th tenet is capitalism is best, basically. And it's kind of funny, because when you look at we talked about it a little bit, that the 3 characters, Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor, are kind of the same person.
Right.
They're all 3 people who believe to have found the best version of how to help humanity, which is, Lex believes it's through basically nuclear deterrent. Sorry. Nuclear deterrent in the form of like something that can stop Superman. Superman believes that he is the right one because he's Superman, and Batman believes it because he's Batman.
I feel like Lex Luthor is not really that. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like he feels like he can save the world by either controlling or becoming Superman himself.
Okay, fair enough. But I kind of see him as like, if you remember back in Man of Steel, you have Zod and you have Superman's dad.
Right.
Jor-El? Carl? And yeah. Who basically both want the same thing. They want to both save Krypton, but the reason why Zod is bad is because he's a racist.
Right.
He's a eugenics guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, their ideology is exactly the same.
Right.
So
we both want the same thing, but for different means, basically.
Right. And that's kind of a thing I see in this movie as well.
Yeah, I don't know how intentional it is in this movie, though.
This is my question, though, because Zack Snyder has talked multiple times that he wants to adapt The Fountainhead, which is one of Ayn Rand's big novels. That is also, like, all of her like fiction novels are basically ways for her to push her political ideology. The Fountainhead is basically a story of her version of the ideal man. Yeah, seriously. A lot of people read it as like a joke, but no, she meant it completely seriously.
All right.
Zack Snyder, I have some quotes here from him, where he talks about The Fountainhead as I've always felt like The Fountainhead was such a thesis on the creative process and what it is to create something, which is a thing I've heard people say about The Fountainhead who are like 15 and don't understand that Ayn Rand means all the things she says in that thing as complete truth.
All right.
So they read it as a metaphor. So this is my sort of thing with Zack Snyder, is I don't know if his fascination with Ayn Rand and sort of her idea of the world is genuine, or if it's just he's an idiot.
Well, I don't want to be mean to the guy.
No, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to call. I feel bad about calling him an idiot. But it's like like there are people who believe in Ayn Rand's philosophy like completely as truth, and then there are the people who are like I said, 15 and read The Fountain and it's like, oh yeah, I can see this as like a metaphor for the creative process and not see it as like an objective truth or like a version of objective truth.
All right. Well,
So
I have a question about this regarding Zack Snyder and sort of the movies that he does. So is a lot of the because a lot of these people are libertarians, right? That's
right,
what they're called.
right-wing libertarian, yes.
Right-wing libertarians. So is a lot of the Ayn Rand libertarian ideology, does it mishmash with like Christianity or like hardcore Christians?
To an extent, yeah, it can.
Because there's a lot of Christian shit in this.
Right. But this is also where I think that the sort of Ayn Rand things kind of go a little bit up against Zack Snyder because he's working with fixed characters. He's working with, Superman, Batman, and Lex Luthor and Wonder Woman and all these characters. He's not working from a complete nothing.
No. And he has certain kernels outside of the Ayn Rand thing that inform his view within the fiction of this, which is primarily Watchmen.
Although he does skew Watchmen more in that regard because he idolizes Rorschach.
Yeah, no, it's not. He's not the critical reading of Watchmen. His own interpretation of Watchmen. Right. So Watchmen, The Dark Knight Returns, to a lesser extent, maybe Red Sun, which is a Elseworld adaptation where Superman is Russian.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how far this fucking Watchmen thing goes, Daniel?
Sure.
Like he's like, to me, he feels like in the commentary track that he's. Like, he thinks he's still making Watchmen.
That's what I said, it's dumb Watchmen.
He's been making Watchmen since Watchmen. In the fight between Superman and Batman in one of the dilapidated buildings that they destroy, on a wall, it's written in Spanish, who watches the Watchmen. Why? And Batman is basically Rorschach from Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
Yeah.
In the same way where... in the comic book Watchmen, Rorschach is obviously scrutinized for being a white supremacist and a crazy person.
Yeah.
Whereas in Zack Snyder's Watchmen, he's glorified. At least as a filmmaker, I think he functions a lot in the visual space.
Right.
So I don't think he puts as much thought into the message of his movies as the people who have overanalyzed them to death over the years.
And that's probably
like for example, a lot of people have pointed out that in Dawn of the Dead, which is his first movie ever,
which
first
is
feature.
Weird when you think about it.
Yeah, a remake of Dawn of the Dead. One of the first shots was a shot of like people bowing in a mosque, which was implying that a zombie plague was related to Muslims. Which obviously
with a horror sting. It's over the opening credits.
Yes, which is obviously Islamophobic. I don't even think he thought about it. For like 1 second, it didn't even flash in his mind. I don't know this to be a fact.
And that's my thing is like when I have read Watchmen and what I know of Alan Moore, okay, I believe that everything that is in this book is intentional. With this, the reason why I call it stupid Watchmen is because it feels more like somebody who believes they're as smart as Alan Moore. And this is why I think that Zack Snyder's idea of Ayn Rand is closer to that 15-year-old who reads The Fountainhead for the first time and goes like, oh yeah, this is like a cool metaphor for creativity, more so than the like full-on right-wing libertarian who like swears by Atlas Shrugged and things. Yeah, most likely.
But that doesn't mean that his internalized views of this are not harmful when they get projected into mainstream blockbusters.
Yeah.
Do you think this looks better than Man of Steel or worse? This movie?
I think in some ways it looks better, but overall I think it looks, I wouldn't say it looks worse, but it looks equally bad.
I mean, I think Amy Adams looks less like a patient suffering from
all of these actors look better. I don't know if it was lighting or makeup in the first movie that just made them all look like they were dying of typhoid, but they don't look like this here, thank God.
I think, like you said, the Superman suit looks better.
There's sometimes
they talk
it looks
about
better.
The fact that they redesigned it slightly.
I actually, you told me this, and I actively tried to look to see how they redesigned it. I could not come up with anything.
It has like the shit on the sides is blue.
Right.
The cufflinks are also blue. They were like silvery in Man of Steel. Whatever. You can say it's basically the same suit. I think the highlights are a bit more pronounced in the actual costume.
And there are some times when they light the suit in this movie where it looks a lot better. You can actually see that it's blue.
Yeah. What do you think of the Batman suit?
I don't hate it.
I don't like it.
I think my biggest problem with it is that we're back to big, thick neck cowl and weird fabric. Like
I can't turn my neck.
Yeah, and also the suit itself looks like it's made out of a fabric instead of a suit of armor. Yeah, but it just kind of seems weird when he looks like so buff and big and things like that.
He's so big. He's too big.
Yeah.
He looks fat.
He looks square.
He's Fat Man.
Like there is literally a shot which I think they used for the trailer, which is after Superman is dead and he like comes out of the rubble, which is a pretty cool shot, by the way. Yeah. But it looks like he's padded on the stomach, so he looks kind of chubby. Which again, it's that like very square silhouette of like the Dark Knight Returns. I do think his like armor when he's fighting Superman looks fine.
I don't like that either. It's a comic book concept. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It goes too far into the idea of this is a comic book movie and not a real movie.
Well, because it's realistic or tries to be realistic from other points. Like, what the fuck is the Senate doing in this movie? What is this, a fucking Star Wars prequel?
Yeah.
Like, do something else.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do the silly costume from a comic book from the 80s.
And kryptonite and,
for some reason I find kryptonite acceptable, but
I was a little disappointed with kryptonite, mostly because we had Man of Steel, which didn't use kryptonite.
Yeah, you could expand on the atmosphere thing. The first scene Affleck and Cavill shot together was Batman shooting Superman with the kryptonite gas canister.
Okay. I mean, fair.
They made a point in the behind the scenes that they decided to emphasize Batman's anger, paranoia, and brute strength rather than his intelligence.
Is that why we get CrossFit Superman or CrossFit Batman more than we get Detective Batman?
Yes.
That CrossFit sequence, though.
Wasn't in the aftermath of this movie where we got Sad Affleck with the Hello Darkness, my old friend?
Yeah, because it was interviews to this movie where you see him and Henry Cavill sit next to each other, and the reporter asks a question, then Henry Cavill goes like nuts answering the question.
He goes into full shill mode, like, this is great, this is amazing.
Yeah, and he tries to explain like the reasoning behind Superman and or something like that, and then you see Ben Affleck just lose the will to live next to him.
So in the main fight between Batman and Superman, Batman can't see, and Superman's boots were constantly filling with water because of the artificial rain, right. And it was very cold for both of them.
Didn't they also at some point just mocap the Batman suit?
Yeah, but some of the sequences are full.
I know that some of it is a real suit, but I believe some of them they also mocapped it.
Yeah, they mocapped for some of it, but for the ones that are real, Batman couldn't see shit, and Superman's boots were constantly filling with water.
We talked a little bit before when we talked about the bath sequence about Henry Cavill's physique. Did you feel weird about that sequence where they suddenly cut to him making breakfast shirtless?
That felt like an outtake.
Yeah.
Or like they didn't tell that the cameras were rolling or something. That was like, am I watching Henry Cavill making breakfast in his apartment? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, it was funny. It was a sigh of relief. At least you were getting like a moment with the character, not political jargon with Neil deGrasse Tyson, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, there's some weird cameos in this movie from like
fucking Jon Stewart,
Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's also the 60 Minutes guy.
They should have gotten Christopher Nolan to do an interview as Christopher Nolan talking about wanting to do a Superman movie or something.
Oh yeah, that would have been awesome.
I want to do a Superman movie.
But it is kind of funny because all that like TV pundit stuff kind of also is Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, full of talking heads. Yeah.
But in this, it just goes nowhere.
There's a whole behind the scenes video that's just like a trailer for Wonder Woman, where they basically got every woman they could find that's involved with the DC project. There's Margot Robbie, they got Patty Jenkins, they got Gal Gadot, obviously. Like everybody who has any sort of female role in anything regarding a DC product. And they all have a soundbite, and Zack Snyder's also in it. And he talks about equal representation. And I wrote down, so you have one woman who has barely any screen time and two other guys, if we're talking about superheroes,
Right.
in BVS. So when he talks about equal representation, guess what clip they play right after that?
Is it the issue with you?
Yes.
Yes.
And then after this clip, they play a clip of Zack Snyder saying like we should turn the conversation towards equality, and then I wrote down "fuck you, Zack Snyder."
See, the thing is, I was debating two clips. One is the issue with you because that's the logical option. It's still dumb, but it's the logical option. The other was the Amy Adams bathtub scene. That's like the dumbest. We are still talking about the guy who made what he describes as a feminist movie, which is Sucker Punch.
Oh God, I've never seen it. I
It's
don't want
terrible.
to. We should do a commentary track.
Not before we do Stoker.
Oh fuck's sake! The worst thing about this whole thing to me is that they rushed it so much.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you want to kill Superman, fine. Or you want to build towards an arc where Superman dies, fine, whatever. You know, like you said, wait for at least a third movie, maybe even longer than that.
I mean, if this has been, let's
How
take
many movies were there until they killed Iron Man?
20 at
20
least plus
whatever. You know, and I didn't give a shit because I was detached by that point of the whole universe. But when I went to see Endgame in theaters, I didn't even see Infinity War by that point. I just saw Endgame because a bunch of my friends went to see it, so I went with them. Well, fucking people were bawling in the theater, man. They were losing their shit.
And to be fair, the death of Superman should have been like the end game of the DCEU.
Yeah.
But you can't do an end game after one movie.
And then they backtrack on it at the end of the same movie.
Yeah. And we know he's coming back. Because he comes back in Justice League, which we will get to.
Yeah. Right. So, any final words about the movie, Daniel?
So, what did I give Man of Steel? A 4 out of 10? I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. This is worse.
Yeah, I'm between a 3 and a 4. Yeah, no, I'm between a 2 and a 3, actually. Yeah,
I'm actually also thinking a 3 is a bit too generous.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
Very bad, but with some good moments that you want to...
Yeah.
You would like, maybe if you cut into a supercut that's maybe like a minute and a half long.
Oh, I wanted to re-edit this movie like the moment the halfway through it.
I don't think it's fixable with a re-edit. I don't know.
I think you can fix some of it with a re-edit.
So, next time we do this, Road to the Snyder Cut, we are going to be discussing the 2017 version of the movie Justice League.
The theatrical version.
So that's it. That's the episode.
That's it. We hope you enjoyed.
We hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.
Yeah.